that was never meant to be answered. At 6:42 a.m., a phone rang inside a house that should have been silent. No lights were on, no movement inside, no one alive to hear it. Yet the call went through, and on the other end of the line, someone listened. It lasted 12 seconds. No words were spoken, no explanation offered, just breathing, slow, calm, intentional. By the time police realized what that call meant, it was already too late to ignore. Because the man who owned that phone, Evan Brooks, had already been declared dead. Evan Brooks lived the kind of life that rarely attracts attention. 36 years old, single, quiet. He owned a modest two-story home in a suburban neighborhood outside Madison, Wisconsin, where the streets were clean and the neighbors polite but distant. Evan worked as a data analyst at a regional financial services firm. His job involved long hours, spreadsheets, and quiet focus. Nothing dramatic, nothing dangerous. To the people around him, Evan was dependable. He arrived on time. He met deadlines. He didn't complain. Neighbors described him as friendly but reserved. He waved, exchanged brief greetings, and kept to himself. No late-night visitors. No loud arguments. No drama. There was nothing about Evan's life that suggested it would end the way it did. In the final weeks before his death, Evan's behavior shifted, but only slightly. Coworkers noticed he stayed late more often. He double-checked files that didn't usually require extra attention. He printed documents instead of storing them digitally. When asked if something was wrong, Evan brushed it off. Just work, he said. But investigators would later realize Evan wasn't stressed. He was documenting, he was creating backups, and he was preparing for the possibility that someone else might try to erase what he had found. The last confirmed sighting of Evan Brooks was unremarkable. He left work just after 6 p.m. He stopped at a grocery store. He went home. Security footage confirmed it. No one followed him inside, at least not on camera. That night passed without incident, at least on the surface. No emergency calls. No reported disturbances. By morning, Evan Brooks was dead. When Evan didn't show up to work for several days, coworkers assumed he was sick or taking time off. By the fourth day, concern grew. By the fifth, neighbors noticed packages piling up on his porch. A wellness check was requested. Police entered through the unlocked front door. Inside, the house was quiet. In the basement, they found Evan at the bottom of the stairs. There were no signs of forced entry, no overturned furniture, no defensive wounds, no note. The injuries were consistent with a fall. The conclusion was simple. Evan Brooks had slipped. It was tragic, but not suspicious. The case was labeled an accidental death within hours. And just like that, the investigation ended. The following morning, Evan's phone registered activity. At 6:42 a.m., an outgoing call was placed. Not a missed call, completed call. The recipient was Laura Chun, Evan's coworker and listed emergency contact. The call lasted 12 seconds. There was no speech, just breathing. Laura almost didn't pick up. She already knew Evan was dead, but curiosity and something darker made her answer. What she heard didn't sound like grief or panic. It sounded deliberate, controlled. I knew someone was there, Laura later told police. I just didn't know who. She hung up and immediately felt something was wrong. Phone companies track everything. Time, duration, method. This call wasn't automated. It wasn't scheduled. Someone had unlocked Evan's phone and placed the call manually. That meant someone had been inside the house after Evan died. The case was reopened. Quietly, investigators examined Evan's laptop and work computer. Emails, documents, backups. That's when they found it. A folder labeled, "Backup, do not delete." Inside were spreadsheets that told a different story. The documents showed unauthorized financial transfers, small amounts at first, then larger ones. The pattern was deliberate, careful, designed to avoid detection, and every transfer led to the same shell account. The shell account traced back to one name, Michael Reeves, Evan's supervisor, a respected manager, the same man who had suggested Evan was under stress. Michael had motive, and now opportunity. Michael denied everything. He claimed Evan was distracted, overworked, unstable. He said Evan's death was tragic, but accidental. He also claimed he'd been home all night, sleeping. That alibi didn't hold. A gas station 2 blocks from Evan's house recorded Michael's car passing by at 1:13 a.m., hours after he claimed to be asleep. The footage was clear. Michael had no explanation. Recovered from Evan's phone was a draft message. Never sent. If something happens to me, it won't be an accident. Check my call logs. Someone knows what I found. Evan had anticipated danger, but he hadn't anticipated how quickly it would come. Police believe Michael confronted Evan. An argument escalated. A push, a fall, then silence. Michael staged the scene, but panic drove him to make one fatal mistake. Michael used Evan's phone to call Laura. He wanted to know what Evan had told her, what she knew. Instead, he created evidence. Evidence that couldn't be explained away. Michael Reeves was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and financial fraud. At trial, prosecutors focused on 3 facts: the money, the footage, the call. 12 seconds that proved Evan hadn't been alone. Michael was convicted, sentenced to decades in prison. Evan Brooks' case closed, this time correctly. Final thoughts. Why this story matters. In true crime, people expect loud evidence. But sometimes the truth whispers, in 12 seconds of breathing, in a call that shouldn't exist. Because sometimes silence isn't empty. Sometimes it means someone was listening.